you know, either younger than us or, you know, passed and retired. So why not? You know, I want to challenge myself. The best always looking to fight the best and challenge themselves, you know, and why not, you know, challenge.
Terence Crawford can't beat him, right? This is a money grab for Terence Crawford. It's just a situation where Terence Crawford is trying to fill up his bank account opposed to actually his legacy.
But if you're studying Floyd closely like I have, you will notice that he never wastes any steps while he's in the ring.
During a live interview with Stephen A. Smith, Terence Crawford is said to have accepted Floyd Mayweather's offer of a fight. According to Crawford, boxing is about pushing boundaries and accepting challenges of any size. He is prepared to take the field once more and stresses that the greatest should battle the best. Crawford states with cool assurance that taking on Mayweather is just one more opportunity for him to establish himself and go above and beyond.
Man, because this is Terence the businessman talking, right? They got to pay the cheddar to make it better, right?
For sure, for sure. All money ain't good money, so you got to know that.
Okay, fair enough. I hate to use the word easy, but at times it did feel like you were, you know, having a really easy time out there. Were you expecting it to play out that way?
Listen, it's never easy, you know.
In his coverage of sports, Stephen A. Smith has always been vocal, and boxing is no exception. He acknowledges an accomplishment that is uncommon in contemporary boxing as he commends Terence Crawford for becoming a champion in 4 different weight classes. Crawford's ability to dominate at 4 different weights puts him in a unique category in a time when fighters are frequently hesitant to switch divisions due to the hazards involved. Stephen A. emphasizes that Crawford is an all-time great pound-for-pound fighter because of his versatility and superiority. It demonstrates not only his physical versatility, but also his technical proficiency, mental fortitude, and will to keep pushing himself in the face of progressively more daunting opponents.
Terence Crawford is the best fighter on the planet. Pound for pound, he's that dude. In this 4-belt era, he is now the undisputed world champion 3 times over. 140 pounds, 147, now 168 pounds, claiming all the belts. You don't see people doing that very often. Going up against a guy who was perceived as being bigger and stronger, Crawford was strong. Crawford was strong enough to fend him off, strong enough to make him respect his own power. He used his jab, he used his distance. He had poise in the ring, he wasn't rattled. He backed up and moved when necessary and kept us different. He exchanged enough to gain respect when necessary. It was a brilliant, brilliant, masterful fight on Terence Crawford's part.
Legendary fighter Roy Jones Jr., who has personal experience of what it takes to dominate multiple divisions, has praised Crawford's skill in the ring. He notes that Crawford showed that he could draw on the skill sets of Aries Landila and Floyd Mayweather, 2 fighters who have both caused Canelo Alvarez problems in different ways. Throughout their bout, Jones claims that what makes Crawford unique is his capacity to observe, research, and then implement successful tactics. It demonstrates that he is a keen student of the sport in addition to being a talented fighter. Jones was particularly impressed by Crawford's ability to modify these methods into his own rhythm rather than merely copying them, which increased their effectiveness in circumstances that happened in real time. He differs from many fighters who struggle against elite opposition and adhere to a single style because of his versatility.
As Canelo Alvarez has been a great fighter his whole career, people like Aries Landila gave you the blueprint on how to beat him. People like Floyd Mayweather also gave you the blueprint on how to beat him. But Bud is more fierce, more fearsome, and more angrier and more meaner than both of those guys. So you know if they showed you the blueprint, Bud gonna go out there and take that blueprint and do even more with it, which is what Bud did. So it was never a question in my mind whether Bud really was going to outbox me, just if he could take the punch. And right away he showed, bam, he could take the punch. So I knew from that point, if he just slow him down, which he did, he'd be okay. Then late in the fight, what other people still didn't see, late in the fight, Bud started hitting Canelo's body. One of those body shots, I think about the 7th or 8th round, hurt Canelo. I was like, whoa. Bud hit him in the right spot then, and he got Canelo's respect with that too. So Bud fought a very, very awesome fight, fought a beautiful fight, very tactical.
Very controlled.
Yes, it was a beautiful fight for boxing.
It was a beautiful fight. You know, Bud got hit with some shots.
He did. He did.
He got hit with some single shots going out. You know, he's going out, and you know Canelo, if he has you trapped in the corner or along the ropes, it's typically 1 to 2 big shots. You know that if you've watched him.
Yep.
So you could tell Crawford, as he was going out, he knew the one shot was coming, and several times it landed. He even got hit with a 2-piece. I don't remember what round it was, uppercut right hand that Crawford took well. So when you started seeing him absorb the shots, if you're Team Crawford, you don't want him to take that shot. But if you started seeing that, now you know that, okay. And I think that's what gave Crawford the green light to stay there a little bit longer.
He smiled about it.
He smiled about it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that smile can be a lie. And sometimes that smile can mean what I think it meant for Crawford, which is, oh, that's not as bad as I thought it was.
There's been a lot of discussion about Crawford facing Floyd Mayweather. Even in an exhibition bout, critics fear that such a battle may jeopardize Crawford's reputation. They contend that he would be pursuing financial gain rather than competitive glory in place of building on his historic triumphs. Like as defeating Errol Spence and outclassing Canelo, this impression results from Mayweather's current career being more focused on lucrative demonstration fights than on significant legacy contests. According to analysts, Crawford has put in too much effort to run the risk of coming out as someone who values money more than history. However, some contend that Crawford's legacy is already safe. Additionally, if he simply adds another intriguing chapter to the story, if he chooses to battle Mayweather.
For Terence Crawford, it's just a situation where Terence Crawford is trying to fill up his bank account opposed to actually his legacy. This is what was being said, right? This is what people perceived. Terence Crawford was just attempting to cash out.
The discussion gets complicated when supporters contrast Mayweather and Crawford's careers. Floyd has victories on his record against some of the biggest names in the sport. Floyd's detractors, however, frequently draw attention to the timing of his triumphs. When Canelo met Mayweather in 2015, he was still a young, inexperienced fighter, while Pacquiao suffered an injury during their much-awaited bout. Furthermore, many fans had unanswered questions about Floyd's readiness to agree to rematches, especially with Pacquiao. Crawford, on the other hand, has dominated opponents who were thought to be at their best when they faced him. This contrast feeds into never-ending discussions about whether Mayweather's skill or strategic timing and matchmaking were more responsible for his ring prowess.
Floyd Mayweather is still greater than Terence Crawford. We need to really talk about this now. A lot of you guys are putting Crawford a bit too high. If you want to say Crawford could beat Floyd, I'm more open to that conversation, but when you're lining up the careers, I'm going to say Floyd every time. While they're both 5 division, Bud has become 3-time undisputed, but he's only fought 10 world champions to Floyd's 25 world champions. You can't take away the 5 division, 3-time undisputed. In terms of accolades, yeah, he probably gets the nod over Floyd. I say their accolades are about relative, considering Floyd Mayweather won Fighter of the Decade as well. But when you get to the resumes, Pacquiao, Oscar, Canelo, Cotto, Mosley, Castillo, Marquez, Zab, Gotti, Hatton, and Corley. It's probably way more people that this guy just didn't name. And then when you get to Bud's resume, not saying it's just bad, but the only names that's really worth mentioning is going to be Spence and Canelo. It's not a knock on Bud. Bud was not able to make those fights early on in his career. But I got to tell you guys what it is. Bud's resume just doesn't line up with Floyd's. Take their top 20 wins. Bud don't even got 20 wins to really sit here and name. Floyd got a good 20-something plus. Bud probably got about 10 wins that we could really sit here and name. Floyd's still greater than Bud in my opinion.
Floyd Mayweather's biggest weapon, according to renowned boxing analyst Tony Jeff, was not only his quickness or defense, but also his mentality. Jeff claims that Floyd's steadfast conviction that he could defeat anybody was what really made him strong. Mayweather's belief in his superior boxing intelligence always provided him the advantage, even in bouts where the odds appear to be close. He was different from other fighters who only used physical prowess because of his capacity to read opponents, adjust in a matter of seconds, and remain composed under duress. According to Jeffer, Floyd retired with an impeccable record because of his psychological edge and technical accuracy, which made him seem nearly unbeatable.
Strong mindset, they're really confident, they really believe in themselves, but you need more than that mindset. You need to have the full package of everything that I'm talking about, what Floyd has got.
Fighters, You fighters should only want to get better. The more you win, the more you should work hard. If you think about losing, you're going to lose. All I ever thought about was winning. So that's all I know.
Floyd would visualize his success before he even stepped into the ring. There was no alternative to him but winning. And this mindset isn't just for boxing, it's for all walks of life. And I've actually done a full video talking about how I used this mindset of visualization to win my Olympic medal. And it was an absolute game changer. Now, Floyd used to use this mindset to ease the pressure that he put himself under. And he made himself think like, I'm not under any pressure right now, where he was under immense pressure.
Pressure either makes you or break you. Well, you see where I'm at, so it's obvious that I'm the type of athlete or I'm the type of entertainer that can deal with pressure. There's never no pressure.
Now, if you watch his fight in 2013 when he fought Canelo Alvarez, Canelo came in a young, strong, undefeated fighter, but by round 2, Floyd kind of had him figured out. He was reading Canelo's jab. He would slip outside and then come back with a clean counter punch, then move his feet and get out of the way. He basically had the full fight under control, and he was controlling the full rhythm of the fight. He was forcing Canelo to fight at his pace. And this is what he would do in all of his fights. He would get his opponent to do what he wanted them to do without their opponent even realizing it, which is what we call boxing IQ. Now, even though I'm not a fan of Floyd Mayweather personally, because of the time when I did meet him, what he said to me made me just feel like this guy is a piece of...
The boxing world is constantly in search of exciting bouts. And Terence Crawford versus David Bendes has been one of the most talked about prospects lately. Bendes contributes strength, size, and unrelenting violence, characteristics that pose a special difficulty. Supporters believe that Crawford could be pushed beyond his comfort zone in this battle. Despite the lack of an official announcement, the rumors are still circulating. This argument demonstrates how fans prefer high-risk, historically significant bouts to demonstration events that are valued more for their commercial worth than their athletic merits. A dream battle for many boxing fans, Crawford versus Bendes would symbolize a struggle of technique versus size, accuracy versus aggression.
Not me, but shocked the world. This past Saturday, Mexican Independence Day weekend, what he took on defeated another first ballot Hall of Famer, but he essentially jumped up 3 weight classes, technically 2, from 154 to 168, but only had 1 fight at 154 last August against Israel Majamov. Terence Crawford defeated Saul Canelo Alvarez, who is a 4-division champion, 2-time undisputed super middleweight, and the reigning, at the time, super middleweight world champion, undisputed world champion. And Terence Crawford beat him handily and convincingly. And because he beat him so easily, now the 63 win, 3 loss, 2 draw, 39 win by way of knockout, biggest threat has been now imposed on Terence Bud Crawford. And that's the Mexican Ecuadorian monster, David Benavidez, who is a 2-division undefeated world champion, is the 2-time WBC super middleweight and reigning WBC light heavyweight, 175-pound champion, who has a record of 30 wins, no loss, no draw, 24 wins by way of knockout. He stands 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach. This is a fight that David Benavidez has been calling for Canelo Alvarez when he was at 168, and Canelo Alvarez strategically maneuvered around him. But Canelo Alvarez is 5'7" with a 70-inch arm reach, started his career at 147 pounds, made his real name at 154 pounds. He's not a big guy, okay? And styles make fights. Benavidez is 6'2" with a 75-inch arm reach. His last fight at 168 against Demetrius Andrade, he rehydrated to 193. So he's a big guy. Canelo Alvarez probably rehydrate to 182, maybe 185 max, right? He's not a big guy, right?
There is no definitive answer to the question of whether Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather are comparable in their respective times. These warriors challenge the finest, and both emerge victorious with outstanding performances. Although Floyd stood out in his generation due to his flawless record in defensive prowess, Crawford's ability to increase in weight and still dominate is as remarkable. The argument is complicated by the fact that their times and situations are too dissimilar to allow for a straightforward comparison. In the end, it might be impossible to say which is better, but taken as a whole, they embody the pinnacle of boxing brilliance.
Oh my goodness, I said that was going to happen. If Crawford was to win, we're going to be seeing a lot of these debates on whether or not Floyd Mayweather or Terence Crawford is going to be better. Now, this is going to be a debate for a long, long time. I'm talking about one of those debates like LeBron versus MJ, Messi versus Ronaldo. It's one of those. And the thing is, I can get behind it. Let me go ahead and say this. When it comes to resume, I do think we give Floyd Mayweather the edge. I mean, he beat a bunch of champions. He reigned for a long time. While Crawford, his resume is heavily criticized, and he's just not getting, his kind of respect for beating Errol Spence and Canelo Alvarez. But if we're talking strictly about skills, this is where things get really, really tough to talk about. I think a fair assessment of this matchup would be Floyd Mayweather wins from 135 and 140, while Crawford wins from 147 to 154. And I say that because I feel like Floyd's style changed once he got to welterweight. He became a more defensive fighter, and he just wasn't as much focused on offense. And knowing this, I feel like Crawford would have had a much better chance of handling him. And we all know, Crawford was an absolute monster at welterweight. But hey man, like I said, this is going to be a debate for a very long time. I can't wait to hear all the talk about it. But I'm curious on your thoughts. Who do you think wins in the fight? Floyd or Terence Crawford? Let's talk about it and follow me for more boxing talk.
Greg Hackett's description of Crawford defeating Canelo sums up the fight's symbolic significance quite well. Hackett highlights how powerful and feared Canelo was after more than 10 years in sport by referring to him as the best boxer in history. A significant change in power is indicated by Crawford's capacity to not just confront him but also seize and destroy him. According to Hackett, Crawford has emerged as the new aquatic predator, the combatant at the top of the sport, the one that everyone else fears. His resume was not the only thing enhanced by this victory. It changed the face of boxing by establishing Crawford as the man who overthrew the shark and turned into the hunter.
Because you got to remember, Canelo is the guy right now in the sport that's supposed to be the man, big bad wolf. You beat him, you the wolf. Now it's like, you know what I mean? Like, all right, who else I'm gonna fight? You beat the shark, you beat the wolf. Right. Damn, like, you know what I mean? Ain't no more ops out there. It's ops out there, but who gonna make them really want to get up? That's the
shit. Gotta make sense. Like you said, you beat a shark, and then you beat a wolf.
Yeah.
But there's the monster.
Yeah, there is, but that's like a real monster.
Bro, that's to me it don't make sense, but that's
really
what
a monster.
Yo, is that proof? All right, we got the legendary Pape in the building. Legend.
Chilling.
But what makes sense? Like, what makes the most sense? I know you said get a line of suits, Brooks Brothers.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Your line of suits get your money, man. Hey, go ahead and get the easy money, man. You ain't gotta sweat no more.
What's up, boy?
Not saying you ain't gotta work, you ain't gotta sweat.
What's happening?
He's paved the career where he could sit down at a table and get this money. He could come out with a Terence Crawford series now, just whatever, doing whatever he like to do. People gonna watch it. Nobody, the fighting part, people don't understand what it's like to be a fighter. A lot of times fighters really don't be interested in certain fights. It's cause when a guy see himself up here and then is fighting a guy down here, it don't interest him. So therefore when he train, he not gonna really train. He gonna train, but he not gonna train. He not gonna listen. He gonna feel like his coach taking it too serious and he's like, man, we ain't this.
Crawford's triumph versus Canelo Alvarez was a turning point in his career that dispelled any remaining reservations. His victory with Errol Spence had already silenced a lot of detractors who had doubted his opposition before to this victory.
Displayed his skill enough, even to someone with not the most trained eye, that they know they saw a very high-level athlete perform something at a very high level last night. I think he gained the sports world's attention last night and respect. He already did after Spence, but it went to another level in this fight.
And I think even the fight itself, like just from a median level, but then the moments where they were having these exchanges, like kind of late in the fight, then people were like, all right, it was good. Then like, okay. I saw somebody like, They're squabbling. Like there's a fight here. So I think it did.
And Crawford closed the show.
Yeah.
In 10, 11, 12, he stood in there and landed some hard shots and rocked Canelo at the bell. He didn't. James was talking about the great Floyd Mayweather. Floyd would go up on you 8-0 and then coast, and you might as well turn the fight off at midway through the ninth. Like, you know, he's not gonna. But Crawford didn't do that.
Crawford's shown his ability to fully dominate a contest from beginning to end against Spence. But what really solidified his legacy was the destruction of Canelo, a fighter who was regarded as practically impenetrable. With these wins, analysts now generally concur that Crawford has put an end to any discussion over his status as one of the greatest fighters of all time. His unquestionable superiority is demonstrated by his ability to outperform champions in several divisions,